Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey, back with another video. I'm joined by the legend Canuck Clay. We're going to talk about Vancouver Canucks here. They've obviously gone through a lot of struggles to start this season, so I want to go over it with Clay, just his thoughts on kind of what's happened with this team. And I know a lot of people have talked about fire Benning, fire Green. There's been conversations about everyone just getting the boot. So Clay, we've at least I hope for people watching this video, I hope you guys have watched Clay's streams and videos. Clay, just kind of intro yourself and talk about the struggles of this team right now.
Well, from one wannabe legend to another, I know I always start with that. John, thanks for having me. And it amazes me that you're not only passionate about your own team, but you know what's going on with every single team in the league. And it pains me to say this, but when we did our preview video at the start of the season, I was talking about second or third for the Canucks in the Pacific. Yeah. And you were like, maybe they might be fighting.
I think both of us were, and I was even excited about the Canucks. And again, things could change. We've talked about it before recording, but I mean, thank you for coming on. I think, yeah, like our predictions for now look pretty bad.
Yeah, it's, as you can imagine, John, and you have a pretty good pulse on what's happening, or finger on the pulse, I should say. It's really rough. It's a tire fire. It's a dumpster fire. It's a dog's breakfast, whatever analogy you want to use. It's rough only because, and I know we're going to get into all the minutia, but the expectations of this team, no one was predicting these guys to win the Stanley Cup, but they were predicting at least fight for playoff spot, even battle for maybe third in the division, not to be behind the expansion Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, no, it's bad. And yeah, I have friends that are like, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm no Canucks fan here, but I have a lot of friends that are Canucks fans. I know a lot of people from Vancouver, and I think like just overall, it was one of those things that I think you thought last year was just kind of a one-off. Like you thought with all the issues last year that kind of came up, okay, that's just an outlier. It's not going to happen. But I was even watching a video from someone else. They were showing kind of the years of Travis Green and outside of the bubble year, which again, you could now maybe consider that the outlier, if anything, because that was kind of a separation from the season itself. That was kind of, they got the opportunity in a 24-team format and they got the momentum. And I know I've talked about it with Habs fans too. It happens with certain teams. Sometimes you just go on a run, you get that momentum at the right time. So now it's a different mindset. It's not last year was the outlier. Is it the bubble was the outlier? I think the only, in my perspective right now, I think the only not outlier part of that bubble situation was Demko. Demko is being hung out to dry right now. And I even think the game against Boston, Halak allowed that one bad goal, but he faced what? The high end of the 30 shots, like he 40 shots, right? Yeah. It was insane. So I think it's not just one problem with this team. The offense is not scoring. The defense is looking out of place in so many high danger chances. But I'll say this, Clay, and you give your thoughts, because I want to talk about potential moves if this keeps going bad here. But correct me if I'm wrong. Based on what I've seen with this team, it's not the new guys that are the problem. Maybe a couple of new guys, like maybe a Dickinson is kind of a non-factor. Yeah. But in terms of maybe the bigger names, the new guys, like I don't think they're the problem. I think it's the guys that have been here, whether it's Pettersson being invisible, Besser underperforming, Horvat being a struggle. Like, give your thoughts on that, because this is like the core we're talking about. Outside of JT Miller, has been stepping up, it's the core that's kind of a problem right now.
Well, John, so many good points there. I want to address the whole thing about the tangents or the outliers, as you said. You're right. I don't think we were as good as we were in the 2020 bubble because of Demko, but I don't think we were as bad as the 2021 shortened COVID season, right? We're somewhere in the middle. Yeah, that middle, as we've talked about, we were hoping to trend towards a playoff spot. And remember when last time I chatted with you, it was over a month ago. It was when you joined me, you kicked off my 24-hour live stream. I think that was the high point of the Canucks season, because that was after game 2, because they started with a loss and then they ended up winning game number 2. Okay, so this is the thing. You're exactly right. Connor Garland and Oliver Ekman-Larsson coming over from Arizona in that massive trade that sent Roussel, Beagle, and Erickson over there. They have been really good. Garland, I'd say, along with JT Miller, probably the biggest surprise, the biggest performer of the season. Always involved, always getting mad, always getting other guys mad. Garland's been great. Ekman-Larsson, not amazing, but solid. You know, that contract's going to look a little ugly, as you know, 4 or 5 years down the road. But for now, it's fine. So the new guys are fine. And then a couple of the new guys, you're right. Dickinson struggled a little bit. I think he's disappointed. And even Tucker Pullman, we knew kind of what we were getting. Probably spent a little too much. So let's say we're batting 500 on the new guys. However, you consider a Podkolzin a new guy. He's been great. His minutes have been going up slowly as the season's gone on. But you are so right. When Elias Pettersson signs a 3-year, $7.3 million contract, which we talked about quite a bit, you expect him to produce more than half a point a game, right? It's on pace for 40 points, which is ridiculous for a guy who's supposed to be a top 10 center. Brock Besser, maybe not recovered fully from whatever was ailing him in the preseason. Bo Horvat, rumors about a rift in the locker room. They've kind of put that to bed, but how can that not affect your play as you're trying to lead a team through such dark times? So you're right. The core guys of PD, Besser, and Horvat, and even Demko, he started off the season well, but even he's come back to earth a little bit. But what can you do playing behind this team right now? So you're so right. You can't blame I know we're getting to the moves and stuff. You can't blame the new guys for sure. But overall, our best players simply haven't been our best players. It's such a cliche, John, as you know, but it's so true in our with our team.
Yeah, and I kind of talked about it with you before recording here. Like, I think if you look at the recent games kind of overall, whether it was the game against Chicago or the game against Boston we just saw, it's not like they're not getting chances. I mean, they're getting pucks towards the net. They're getting their chances. They're getting their looks. And I guess you could make the argument that, oh, look at the performance from Fleury there. Look at the performance from Allmark. But at the end of the day, you got to find ways to win. All the wins are not going to be pretty. They're not going to be something. And that's kind of like the saying, like, good teams sometimes win in ugly ways. So I just think with this Canucks team, they're just in a losing funk in any way possible. They lose bad. They look good still at lose. Like they lose in a bunch of different ways right now. So I guess to transition a little bit here, I've been watching your streams and I've kind of been listening to what you have to say, but I guess overall with fans kind of firing things at you all the time, are you at the point of just as simple as fire green and things are going to change? Because at the end of the day, in a sport like hockey, sometimes it is as simple as that. Sometimes a coaching change does flip a little bit of the momentum, flip a little bit of that. So is it as simple as firing green or changing something like that for you, or making the betting change? Or is it like players getting shipped out finally?
So many angles, John. I think the Canucks missed their opportunity to do something a couple of weeks ago, right when they had a bad road trip. They're coming home, then they have a bad homestand before they went on this trip, this most recent trip. I think that's when they should have done something. But there's so many angles, because you could say it's kind of hard to change the whole team of players, right? Maybe you could bring up a few guys from Abbotsford, but is that really going to move the needle? Do you want to trade away picks, make a desperation trade and even give up more? No, Benning's already done that the past few years. We haven't had a first round draft pick. It feels like since I was a little kid, right? Which is a long time ago. I think the other thing though, is if you fire Green, there's talk here that the Aquilinis are cheap. They don't want to pay Green his 1.5 years remaining and then hire another coach for $2 or $3 million. You fire Benning, are you in the same scenario? I really think right now, John, I think what they need to do, as much as I like Green, you could look at firing Green, bite the bullet money wise, because something has got to change. Even when they play well, you said they outshot Columbus 41-21 a week ago. They played Boston straight up last night. And who knows what's going to happen against Montreal and Ottawa. These are two games that they should win. But you can fire Green, not just for the sake of fire, but everything else, something's got to give. And you're right. Maybe it gives a small bump. Maybe you bring an interim coach to give you more, to kick the can down the road. But something needs to change. Now, Benning, most people actually, John, as you know, in Vancouver, they're more want to fire Benning than fire Green, because they're saying, well, what's Benning done in 8 years here? Green's is 5th year. Benning's 8 years and only 2 playoff runs, one good one. Or I don't know, we got lost to Calgary first round, and then the bubble, which was maybe a mirage, as we talked about. So I hear equal people saying fire Benning, equal people saying fire Green, equal people saying blow up this roster. But are we ready for another rebuild when we just went through that when the Sedins retired 4 seasons ago?
Yeah, the argument I'll make, and again, I would say I follow the Canucks quite a bit, but I'm not as close as Canucks fans or as close as yourself at all to the situation. But I will say this, from what I've seen, and this was kind of like, I had this conversation about Bergevin, but more so Benning. I think as a coach in Travis Green, you have more of an effect, much more of an effect on what happens on the ice. I think Benning has made moves, agree or disagree. He's made moves that on paper, at least for myself, have built a team all around. You have Demko, your franchise goalie. You have 3 or 4 guys that should be skilled enough to play in a top 4 defense. I'll say 3. And then you have a forward group that consists of young stars. And then again, I would say maybe the question mark's been kind of that veteran, but like it's honestly the players itself. I mean, it's either the coach, it's the players. It's all happening on the ice here. So I think, again, maybe I'm in the minority in saying that from a lot of fans, but I don't think Benning really is to blame for this specific season going wrong right now. But
that's a fair point, John. And I think a lot of people would agree with you, because you're right on paper. And that's why you and I and others were predicting the Canucks to at least battle, because you especially look at that forward group and they're young. Petey, Besser, Horvat, Garland, Podkolzin, Hoglander, those 6 guys right away you can build around. And then, yes, you have the Millers and Pearsons and Motts that kind of fill that out. But it's not the most amazing group you've ever seen, but it's decent. It shouldn't be a team that's only has 6 wins in 22 games, right?
Yeah, of course. And before we wrap into part 2 of our conversation here, I might split it into 2 videos. What's your timeline here? So this keeps going bad. I mean, I've talked about both with Vancouver and Montreal. I would say you wrap up the rest of this year. So going into 2022, if it's January 1st, 2022, and you still feel this bad about the team, I think the big change has got to happen. Kind of what's your timeline for the Canucks?
If you were to ask the Canucks fans here in Vancouver, they'd say that timeline is
it's already passed.
Yeah, exactly. It should have happened, but it's so funny, John, because I was saying if it didn't happen at the end of the road trip last time, when's it going to happen? Then it didn't happen at the end of this homestand, which is very disappointing. Now we've lost the first 3 of 5 games on this road trip. So, gosh, it is so tricky. I think it comes down to, do they think they can salvage this season? Because if they actually don't think they can salvage the season, you could actually, and this wouldn't be good for player morale. You could actually see, you're right, waiting till January 1 or even waiting till later, just riding this group out, seeing what contracts come off the books and what else can happen. But you don't want to build a culture. You don't want Horvat and Pettersson and Hughes and them suffering through another year as abysmal as last year, right? But then do you make a move now? It's the Montreal Canadiens stuff. I know you covered it so well. You did that live stream. That really it sets up an interesting kind of contrast to where Vancouver's at, because people in Vancouver say, wow, look at Montreal. They actually had the guts to do something. Yeah. And here we are sitting with the same group, management, coaches, and players that we've had all season. So to answer your question, when you say January 1, when you first said, I said, man, that feels like a long time. But this Aquilini group, as you know, they're very patient. I don't know if it's a money thing. I don't know if it's a pride thing, an ego thing, whatever thing, but they don't move quickly. And maybe this extends past into December and into the new year, which would be absolutely nuts, because everyone's just kind of waiting for a shoe to drop or any other, article of clothing you want to talk about.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, on paper right now, it looks really bad. But more so why I'm saying January 1 is because all it takes is like a 5, 6, 7 game winning streak, and they're back to 500. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but the potential is still up there. And as you said, they have a couple games coming up where on paper they're playing weaker teams where they should win. So that's the potential of, okay, all of a sudden, if they win 3 games, Canucks lands are going, okay, maybe it's coming. But yeah, that's why you never know. So that's why I was kind of giving it like, okay, maybe the new year, the new Canucks, maybe we'll see. But,
actually, John, now that I think about it, that January 1 also makes sense, because after the Canucks wrap up this road trip in Montreal and Ottawa, they have 6 in a row at home or something, and something like 9 of the next 12. So you're right. If there's any time to make an actual move and decision, you could wait to see how they do in December, where 75% of the games are in front of home fans, for better or for worse, right?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And then if a jersey flies on the ice during that homestand, then you might go, okay, bye-bye, green.